All right, yesterday we learned what Shammai said. Remember, Shammai said you should make your Torah learning the main basis of your life. You should say little and do a lot. And you should be pleasant to every person. In other words, even though that Shammai, they say he was very, very strict, but that was only with himself. With other people, he was not. Okay, now we're going to Rabban Gamliel. Now, who was Rabban Gamliel? Here he said, Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel, it said, he was the son of Hillel. Gamliel. Like it mentions in the Shabbat. There was Hillel had a son that was called Shimon, and he had a son that was called Gamliel. Gamliel and his father Shimon, they were the leaders of the Jewish people for approximately Hillel and Shimon, Gamliel, and then Shimon after him. There's going to be a Shimon ben Gamliel. They were the ones that controlled Israel for about 100 years. Right? 100 years. The last years of the Holy Temple, the Second Temple. Therefore, it says, usually up to now, it says that they were the leaders and they received from those who were before them. And then it says that then the ones after them, they received from Shmaya Battalion. And then the next generation, they received here, these generations after after Hillel and Shammai, it doesn't say anymore that the next generations received. Why not? Because that's when arguments began. It doesn't say that they received because the pupils of Shammai and Hillel, that's when there started to become arguments between the different groups. Shammai and Hillel, those were the most outstanding ones. It's called the house of Shammai and the pupils of Shammai and the pupils of Hillel. Usually the pupils of Hillel were more lenient and those of Shammai were more severe. We're going to learn about this in the morning class. It says nowadays the law is like Hillel because both opinions are the opinions of God. It says the words of the living God, Divrei Elokim Chaim. Both Hillel and Shammai were the opinions of God, and their pupils were also the opinions of God, even though they argued fiercely. But God wanted there to be this argument. So it says nowadays the law is like Hillel. In the future, in the days of the Mashiach, it's going to be like Shammai. We'll talk about that, how it can be in the future. That the high court will decide and say, okay. So therefore, it doesn't say anymore that they received from the generations before them. Because each one, Shammai and Hillel, they had their two different opinions. So the coming generations, they didn't receive any clear thing from what was before. They had to work it out themselves. Okay, what did he say? Let's get back to what did Rabban Gamliel say? Advice to us. Just one more parenthetical statement, and that is Judaism very much encourages argument and discussion and asking questions. Very, very much encouraged. The question should be asked, but just on the condition that you ask a question because you want the answer, and that you're willing to admit that you're wrong if in fact you are, if there's sufficient reason to realize that you're wrong. The problem is when people become stubborn and they refuse to listen to any other opinion, and they have no logical basis for their opinion. Okay, here we go. Rabban Gamliel, he was the grandson of Hillel. He said, "Aseh lecha rav, make for yourself. We had this before. Make for yourself a rav. Pick somebody, and appoint him that he's going to be greater than you. Histalach min hasafek. By means of that, you remove all doubts. Al tarbeh la'aser amadot. And do not take a tithe by estimation. What's this going? I'll explain. There's a commandment in the Torah that you have to give 1/10 of your produce to the Levite. 1/10. So how do you divide? How do you decide what this 10th is that you give? Simply, you count how much produce you have, how much wheat or whatever, and you divide it by 10. You give 1/10 to the Levite. But let's say a person says, "Listen, what do I have to give it? I'll just give, I'll give more than 10th. I'll just give." So first of all, it'll come out that maybe you'll give less because people usually estimate things to their own benefit. There's a story about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I was told this story by somebody else, that someone went to the Rebbe, a rich man, a man that was well off, and he said, it says you're supposed to give 1/10. Well, these, of your money to charity. So all these institutions, these schools and orphanages and the things for widows and this, they're asking me money. I'm giving a fortune. I want to stop. So the Rebbe said, "You're right, 100%. You should not give 1 penny more than 1/10. From now on, what you do is you write down every time you write it down. Every time you give money. No, I don't write it down. I don't even want to look. So the Rebbe said, "Okay, listen. You just give, and you write it down. Write it down how much you give, and then at the end of, let's say, half a year, you count how much money you made in general and how much you gave charity. And then the next half of the year, you can adjust it. You'll give, if you gave too much, you'll give less the next time. You say, I'm sorry, I can't." So the man said, okay. So he gave charity, didn't look at it, and just without looking, just gave his charity. And he was sure that he was giving 20%, 25%. And he did exactly what the Rebbe said. He wrote it down, looked at how much he made, how much he gave, 3%. To him, it seemed like he was pulling his teeth out to give the person. It was giving so much, but in the fact of the matter, he was giving much less than 10%. Much less than 10%. So that's what it says. When you give 10%, do it exactly. Don't estimate. Why not? We'll see. Let's see. What if you want to give more? Let's say you want to give more. Let's see. We'll see. Okay, let's do the 3 things. What do we say? Make yourself a rabbi and remove all doubts. Really, that's 2 things. Make yourself a rabbi, and by means of that, you will remove all doubts. What is it? We'll see what it means, make yourself a rabbi. It's not talking about a reformer. We'll talk about it. And also, don't give your tithe by estimation. This is linyan hora'ah medaber. Now he's talking about asking people, you want to know what a law is. Im bo din lefanecha, if there comes in front of you, and you yourself are a rabbi, and you don't know exactly what to do, you don't know how to judge, aseh lecha rav, go to another rabbi and remove all doubt. V'lo tispok alav ata levada. Don't decide, tifsok, don't decide, make decisions on your own. If you have a doubt in your mind, consult with other people. This is very common also nowadays. I don't know how it is in other places, but in Israel, it's very common by doctors. They consult. You have a doctor has a question, he consults another doctor. Usually doctors are jealous of other doctors. Here they may consult him. They consult each other. Kiha, the Rabba, like for instance, the case of Rabba, Kihavi asi tarfata lagabi, when there came a question about an animal, if it was kosher or not, havi machnif, this is Aramaic. He would gather all the rabbis, Tavchi, would gather all of the other, how do you say, ritual slaughterers of the city, Masa Maksa, that was called. Omar, and he would say, Ki hechi de lamatian shiva shiavo meksharta. Says here, until someone would incline the law that he would say, right, they would say it was kosher or not. He didn't want to say the thing was kosher on his own. He didn't want it to be strict, so he gathered all the rabbis so he'd sure he had enough opinions that his opinion was the right one. Al taber la'asar omados, you shouldn't give tithes by estimation. So both of these are basically saying the same thing. Don't rely on yourself. Shamaforish maisros, that if a person gives a tithe, ba'omad, just estimates, so eno milstam, he's not going to escape, how do you say, wrecking things up. Why? Because in pochet mimasha royaltin, if it's too little what he's giving, right? Let's say his crops he has 1,000 bushels, and they're all heaped up together. He didn't divide them up into bushels yet. They're all heaped up together. So he takes what he thinks is about a tenth. If he gives too little, then it means that what he was supposed to have given is Maisrotov, then the amount that he did give, that's proper. That's okay. But the fruits that are left behind, they're not proper. Why? Because there's mixed in with the fruits this holy fruits that he was supposed to have given to the Levi, and he didn't give it to them. So that's mixed in, and that makes it what's called damai. It's forbidden to eat. What if he gives a little bit? So he says, you know what? Okay, I'm going to be sure. I'm going to give more than a tenth, for sure more than a tenth, right? So then what happens is the fruits that he has, that what's left for himself, that's fixed up because he gave. But the problem is that what he gave to the Levite is not really what he gave to the Levite, it's not fixed up. Because let's say he gives 20% to the Levite. So it means 10% he was supposed to have given, but the other 10% is really regular fruits. And the Levite has to give from those regular fruits. He also has to take out a tithe from that. And the Levite doesn't know. The Levite thinks that this is all the tithe. So therefore, if he gives out too little, then the fruits that he's got that are left over, the tithe is stuck in his regular fruits, and he didn't take it out. So it makes his fruits forbidden. On the other hand, if he gives too much, then the fruits that he's giving to the Levite, half of them or whatever, are really not holy fruits, they're regular fruits. And the Levite, he's got an obligation to take from those regular fruits also a tithe, and he doesn't know. So therefore, it says you should give exactly the exact amount, 1/10. Then if you want to give a gift to the Levite, you can give whatever gift you want. But first of all, you have to fix up what you give to the Levite, to fix up yourself. As we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow, the message of, there's 18 Mishnahs over here. Shimon, who is the son of Gamliel, he has a message also about how wonderful keeping quiet is. We'll talk about it tomorrow. See you tomorrow, God willing, at 8:15 in the morning with Mashiach now.